This is Eliud Kipchoge, the first man in history to run a marathon in under 2 hours. He did this wearing an advanced version of the Nike Vaporfly 4%, a shoe designed to make runners faster by 4%. When Nike first introduced these shoes, many thought it was just another marketing gimmick. But when records started falling and athletes across the world began improving their times significantly, the reality became clear. These shoes worked. They didn't just make runners faster, they changed the sport entirely. The rise of these so-called super shoes sparked a debate unlike any seen before in the world of running. Were these shoes giving athletes an unfair advantage? Were they a form of technological doping? Suddenly, the playing field seemed uneven. Some athletes had access to these revolutionary shoes, while others, bound by sponsorship contracts, did not. The controversy grew as some professional runners, despite being sponsored by other brands, secretly wore Nike shoes and painted over the logo to avoid breaking their contracts. The advantage was so obvious that even governing bodies couldn't ignore it. As records continued to be shattered, concerns about fairness reached their peak. The Olympics, the highest stage of athletic competition, had to respond. World Athletics, the governing body for track and field, stepped in with new regulations. Certain models of super shoes were banned, but not all of them. Even now, after the Paris Olympics, debates surrounding these shoes continue to rage. Legendary sprinter Usain Bolt has openly criticized them, calling them weird and laughable. The question remains, are super shoes making the sport better, or are they ruining the spirit of fair competition? Nike's dominance in the running world didn't happen overnight. It took years of research, innovation, and technological breakthroughs. However, it was the Breaking 2 project that truly changed the game. The goal of this project was simple but ambitious: break the 2-hour marathon barrier. For years, sports scientists and running experts believed that it was humanly impossible to run 26.2 miles in under 2 hours. Nike wanted to prove them wrong. In 2017, they organized a special race at a Formula One track in Monza, Italy. Eliud Kipchoge, one of the greatest marathon runners of all time, was the chosen athlete. He had everything in his favor: perfect weather conditions, pacemakers running alongside him to reduce wind resistance, and most importantly, a brand new pair of revolutionary shoes. These shoes, later known as the Nike Vaporfly, were unlike anything seen before. They had a thick, springy foam midsole and a carbon fiber plate that helped propel the runner forward with every step. The result was astonishing. Kipchoge finished the marathon in 2 hours, 0 minutes, and 25 seconds, just 25 seconds short of the 2-hour barrier. Even though he didn't officially break the record that day, the message was clear: these shoes made a difference. Just 2 years later, in 2019, he tried again, this time in Vienna. This time, he succeeded. He became the first human to run a marathon in 1 hour, 59 and 40 seconds. While this wasn't an official race and didn't count as a world record, it was still an unbelievable achievement. However, instead of celebrating Kipchoge's incredible talent, the focus quickly shifted to his footwear. Was it Kipchoge's hard work that got him there, or was it the shoes? Running shoes have come a long way since their early days. In the 1860s, the first known running shoes were simply leather dress shoes with spikes added for extra grip. They weren't designed for comfort, but they helped athletes gain traction on dirt tracks. By the 1920s, rubber soles revolutionized the market, making running shoes more comfortable and efficient. After World War II, companies like Adidas and Puma, founded by the Dassler brothers, introduced new innovations such as removable track spikes, which allowed athletes to adjust their shoes based on the race conditions. Nike entered the scene in the 1960s when Bill Bowerman, one of the company's co-founders, started experimenting with new shoe designs. One of his most famous creations was the Nike Cortez, a running shoe with extra cushioning that changed how athletes approached long-distance running. He later went on to invent the Nike Waffle Trainer, a shoe with a unique sole pattern that improved grip and shock absorption. These early innovations paved the way for the modern running shoe. However, nothing compares to the super shoes introduced by Nike in 2016. The Vaporfly, followed by the Alphafly, introduced two major technological advancements that made all previous running shoes seem outdated. First, there was ZoomX foam, a lightweight material that offered an 85% energy return, meaning that every time a runner's foot hit the ground, the shoe helped push them forward with greater efficiency. Most traditional running shoes only provided a 50 to 65% energy return, so this was a massive leap forward. The second game-changing feature was the carbon fiber plate, a stiff plate embedded in the sole that acted like a spring, giving runners an extra boost with each step. Together, these two features created a perfect combination of softness and resilience. Unlike running on hard pavement, which absorbs too much energy, or sand, which doesn't provide enough bounce back, Vaporfly shoes offered the best of both worlds. They compressed under pressure but immediately snapped back into shape, allowing runners to maintain speed with less effort. It was this perfect energy return that made the difference. As more and more athletes started breaking records while wearing super shoes, questions arose about whether these shoes were giving runners an unfair advantage. Some argued that Nike had created the most significant performance-enhancing equipment in the history of running, comparable to the high-tech swimsuits that were banned in competitive swimming after they helped athletes break over 100 world records in 2008. Others pointed out that running should be a test of natural ability, not who has access to the best technology. One of the biggest critics of super shoes is Usain Bolt, the greatest sprinter of all time. Bolt, who set his world records in the 100-meter and 200-meter events without the help of super shoes, has called them ridiculous and said that allowing them in competition disrespects previous athletes' achievements. If records are broken with the help of advanced shoes, are they still as meaningful? The psychological impact of these shoes is just as important as their physical benefits. Many athletes now believe that if they don't have super shoes, they don't stand a chance of winning. Some even switched shoe sponsors just to gain access to Nike's technology. In 2022, Fred Kerley, the world champion in the 100-meter, started wearing Nike spikes despite being sponsored by ASICS. This raised concerns about whether the sport was becoming too dependent on brands. With all the controversy surrounding super shoes, World Athletics had no choice but to step in. On January 31st, 2020, they announced a new set of rules to restore fairness in the sport. The first major rule was that any shoe used in competition must be available for public purchase. This prevented companies from secretly developing special prototypes that only elite athletes could access. Another important rule was the 40-meter midsole thickness limit. Some of Nike's prototypes had even thicker soles, which were believed to provide an even greater energy return. By capping the midsole height, World Athletics hoped to reduce the impact of shoe technology on race results. Finally, they banned any shoe that contained multiple stiff plates, limiting the effect of the carbon fiber plate technology. Even with these rules, the debate isn't over. Nike's core super shoes remain legal, and other brands like Adidas and ASICS have since developed their own versions. The future of running competitions will likely continue to be shaped by technological advancements. But the question remains, how far should we allow technology to go before it changes the essence of the sport itself? Despite bans and regulations, super shoes continue to dominate competitive running. While rules have limited extreme designs, the core technology remains. Running shoes are no longer just about comfort. They are now about performance enhancement. Today's athletes aren't just competing against each other, but also against ever-improving footwear technology. The big question is whether super shoes will continue to improve or have peaked. Nike's Vaporfly and Alphafly changed the game, but now other brands have caught up. Adidas's Adizero Adios Pro with energy rods mimics foot bones for a natural feel. ASICS and Puma have also developed high-tech shoes, meaning Nike no longer holds a monopoly. This raises an ethical debate. If every brand can make super shoes, is the competition now fair? Some say yes, since all athletes have access. Others argue that races are now about shoe design rather than pure ability. If an athlete in older shoes can't compete with someone in the latest model, is it really fair? Super shoes have already proven their impact on long-distance running, but now sprinting could be next. Nike's Vaporfly Super Spikes may offer a 1 to 2% performance boost, enough to break records that might have stood for decades. The Paris Olympics was truly the ultimate test. After the Paris Olympics, World Athletics has maintained its regulations on running footwear to ensure fair competition. The key rules include a maximum sole thickness of 40 mm and the prohibition of shoes containing more than one rigid embedded plate. Additionally, any shoe used in competition must have been available for purchase by athletes on the open retail market for at least 4 months prior to the event. To assist athletes, coaches, and officials in verifying shoe compliance, World Athletics launched a shoe check application. This tool allows users to search for specific shoe models and provides relevant information regarding their approval status for competition. These measures aim to balance technological advancements in footwear with the integrity of athletic performance, ensuring that no athlete gains an unfair advantage due to their choice of shoes. The debate over super shoes isn't just about performance, it's about ethics. Sports have always evolved with technology, but the key question is, when does innovation become unfair? Some advancements, like the Speedo LZR Racer swimsuit, were banned after helping swimmers break over 100 world records because they were considered technological doping. A similar shift happened in cycling when carbon fiber bikes replaced steel frames, completely changing the sport. Now the same thing is happening in running. While super shoes haven't been fully banned, they have reshaped the sport, making many question whether competition is still about natural ability or advanced footwear. Sports are supposed to be a test of human endurance and training, but when shoes significantly boost performance, it raises doubts. Would Kipchoge have broken the 2-hour marathon barrier without his special shoes? Would today's marathon record stand if athletes wore older models? These are difficult questions with no easy answers. Another major issue is accessibility. Elite runners get sponsored gear, but amateurs and lower-level athletes must pay hundreds of dollars for super shoes. This creates a gap between those who can afford the best technology and those who can't, making competition unfair. There's also a psychological effect. Athletes now believe that winning is just as much about choosing the right shoes as it is about training and skill. As shoe technology keeps evolving, governing bodies must decide. Should performance-enhancing shoes be restricted, or should the sport accept that technology will always play a role in breaking records? Nike's super shoes have changed running forever. What started as a simple experiment to improve performance quickly turned into one of the biggest controversies in sports history. While these shoes have undoubtedly helped athletes achieve faster times, they have also raised serious questions about fairness, technology, and the future of competition. By imposing new regulations, World Athletics has tried to restore balance to the sport. However, as other brands continue to develop their own versions of super shoes, the issue remains far from settled. In the end, the biggest challenge is maintaining the spirit of fair competition. Running has always been a sport that celebrated human endurance, speed, and determination. Technology will always be a part of progress, but the key is ensuring that it enhances the sport rather than replacing the skill of the athletes. As we look toward the future, one thing is certain: the debate over super shoes is far from over. Whether you see them as an unfair advantage or an exciting evolution, there's no denying that they have forever changed the way we think about what's possible in running. The question is, how much further will technology push the limits of human performance?